Hey, welcome to a new episode of Josh's Car Corner. You might be a little confused about the title because typically when you think about someone picking up the pieces, they're like recovering from some sort of tragedy that's occurred in their life. I have no tragedies in my life. Recently engaged, I've got a good job, I've got 2 Holdens, one that I'm putting back together right now, so life is awesome. Picking up the pieces is referring to actually getting pieces for not just the Crewman, but for the GTO. Very excited about this because I have just acquired a part for the GTO that I actually purchased 4 years ago. 4. And finally got it in my hands. So to get you caught up, I have just returned from Indianapolis, Indiana, which is the home of Cheetah Exports, run by a local Australian named Kevin Bailey. He has an export position in Lilydale, which is just north of Melbourne in Victoria, and then his port of entry into the United States is Indianapolis, Indiana. He imported some parts for me, some for the Crewman, and one very important one for the GTO. So I'm going to take you back in time to yesterday, where I was at his warehouse picking up these parts and getting reacquainted with a Holden that I had seen just a couple months ago prior at the Holden Cookout. So check this out. All right, I just pulled up at the importer. Here's the Crewman that I saw at the Holden Cookout. I get to see it once again. I get to program keys for it today because the guy who owns it needed some new keys. So I'm going to help him out with that today. Cannot wait until mine is done and in running shape like this one is. It's pretty cool. Okay, this is very exciting. I now have my parts. I was there for quite a while. I was trying to help the guy with that red Crewman get his new keys program. We found out the reason he couldn't is because he doesn't have any communication between the ring on the ignition cylinder and the body control module, which is why he couldn't program keys using the turn key on, key off method. So he's got to figure that out, and then he should be able to get himself some keys programmed. But this is what I've been waiting for. This right here, this box right here, this is a complete catback exhaust for the Crewman, which I had to get from Australia because you can't get that kind of a thing over here unless you want custom, and I didn't want that. And this is X-Force too, which you might remember from my trip to SEMA back in November. That's a good company. But this right here, this is the thing I am very excited about. This is not for the Crewman. I actually ordered this 3 years ago, 4 years ago when I was in Australia. Holy crap, it's been that long. Yeah, March 2019, I ordered this after I got back from Australia. This is an HSV GTO Coupe front bumper. Oh yes. So just to give you a hint the direction the GTO is going to go in the future, it's going to get a little more Australian. But oh, that was terrible, forget that. But anyway, now I got to get this home, and then I got something else to pick up on the way back, which I will show you once we get there eventually. So I've now got those parts, very excited about both, and now I have just crossed the border back into Wisconsin, and I'm heading to my buddy Rich Martinez's house, where I'm about to pick up the next piece. Although this one is well, it's a big piece. It's such a big piece it requires a trailer, so I'll show you what I'm talking about. Well, here's the other thing, and this trailer might be a bit of a giveaway. That's my buddy Larry. And this is the other thing I purchased from him and my buddy Rich. It's an 06 GTO. As you can see, it's not much of a car, but it's got the important things that I need. For example, it's got a fully assembled dash. It's got a floor harness, which I needed. It's got the clock spring, which I needed an 06 clock spring. So this is going to have everything I need, including another firewall. And I'll explain why I need another firewall in a bit. We got to get this on the trailer, which is going to be a little tricky because it's got no steering rack. So there's really nothing keeping the front wheels in line right now. So it's going to require a bit of effort. So now I've got everything I was coming for, and I'm heading back up to Northeast Wisconsin. So you might be asking yourself why I have got another GTO on a trailer. Well, the thing is, when you're doing something that has not been done before except by professionals, you are bound to make some mistakes. And in buying that front cut of that 05 GTO to get the firewall, I ended up making some mistakes. One, when I pulled that firewall out, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I ended up bending it pretty good. And while I might be able to get it bent back into original shape, I think it's going to just be better to go start over again with a firewall that is going to stay in better shape, because now I know how to pull it out a lot more cleanly than I did the first time. Also, it didn't occur to me that I was going to need floor wiring out of a GTO in order to make all of this work, because the Crewman only had one power seat, GTOs have two. Crewmans had side airbags in the seats, GTOs don't. The wiring goes to different places. There's wiring for a fuel tank pressure sensor that I now need that the Crewman doesn't have. So it's just going to be easier to have a whole nother floor harness, and the dash in this GTO is complete, whereas the one I got from that front cut that I had was already mostly disassembled, so I didn't get to see it come apart. And I knew it was going to be a nightmare trying to put it back together, not having seen how it came apart. I would have had to search through a lot of manuals, and chances are I would have missed a few bolts. So now I can start with one that is intact, and it's going to have an 06 harness in it, which is better because 06 harnesses, they fixed the rubbing problem. They rerouted some power in the underhood fuse relay to run power seats more efficiently, because originally everything was run off of one power wire. So it's just going to be a better game plan all around. And I'll probably have some extra parts on this shell that I'm never going to need for my GTO or for the Crewman. I'll sell those parts off and try to make some money back toward the Crewman project, because I'll tell you what, the bills for it are adding up. It's going to be quite an expensive undertaking to get this thing back on the road. Okay, the parts GTO is now living in its final resting place, and I have been busy going through all of the excess parts that my buddy Rich gave me along with this thing. There's a lot here, a lot of which I am not going to be using, so I'll just take you through all of it. There are some various interior bits here, and some of these I am going to definitely save. I've got 3 door panels. I've got 2 drivers and a passenger. I've got these panels for behind the doors. And there's still another set of panels in the car, I think. As far as mechanicals, I do have leather for a GTO seat here. I'm guessing this was a driver's seat because that's where the stitching is ripped. There are no motors or electronics in this seat. I have 2 seat bottoms. That one doesn't have a frame. I think that's going to end up becoming the bottom of my new office chair. And possibly the seat back too. I'll just super glue that back together because I think that would be a cool seat to have. There's also a lot of other parts here. There's a pretty good condition center force dual friction clutch for an LS1 sitting here with a pilot tool. There's one half shaft. There is some various wiring. This is front bumper wiring for connecting all the fog lights and everything. This is a knock sensor wiring harness for an LS1, which is weird because this is an 06. Coolant crossover pipe, a complete gas tank, and then I got a ton of extra mounting tabs or mounting brackets for front and rear bumpers. So these are for the rear bumpers on either side, and then that's a matching set for front fenders that go in the front fenders for attaching the front bumper. So they're both passenger side, but I think one of them is in decent shape. I'm probably going to save that. I don't know why, but I got 3 front vent systems with hazard lights in them, 1 airbag. There was a good rubber windshield seal here that I already pulled out. I'm going to save that for the Crewman. This was one of the biggest scores. 2 sets of Impulse Blue side skirts, and I've checked them both out. They're both in good shape. The paint is just rough on them, but there's no broken tabs. There's no stretched out holes. There's a little bit of the normal wear and tear you'd have on the underside. They probably would need a good respray, but I have those as well. Gaskets that I'll probably need for whatever engine I'm going to end up sticking in the Crewman too. A couple other things worth mentioning are the doors. These are not very nice looking, but there's a lot of tape on here. I don't think this one might have a couple of little dings in it. The other thing is it's still got a blue gauge cluster in it. I might put that in my car. I haven't decided. But if I don't, I'll sell it too. Or I'll put this one in my car and sell my red one. But the good thing is there's a lot of stuff here that I can use on the Crewman. And there's even a few things I can use on my GTO. The one I'm most keen on, and I realize this, is that my rear end was never fixed properly when I got rear-ended in 2011. So I'm going to end up probably cutting the whole back of this car off, including the tub. Because I know on my car, this is not the right shape, and this crash bumper that's underneath here is not the right shape. So I'm going to save all this, and then when I finally get the GTO redone properly, this is all going on the back of the car, so all that metal back there can be straight again. If there's anything you see here that you think you might want for your car, make me an offer. Any proceeds I make towards selling any of this stuff off is going to just go right back into putting the Crewman together. So I'm not going to try to list any prices, but be generous with your offers. Now, if it's something big and would be difficult to package, it'd probably be better if you lived in the tri-state area and I can meet you somewhere to deliver this to you. I don't really feel like trying to find awkward boxes for shipping any of this stuff. Let me know, and I'll let you know how the disassembly of this thing goes, and hopefully I can get a lot more good parts out of here for the Crewman. So thanks for watching this episode of Josh's Car Corner, and we'll see you soon. Like what you just saw? Let me know with a thumbs up, or by subscribing and clicking that little bell so you know when new episodes come out. And be sure to join the new Facebook group I set up too for Josh's Car Corner.